I don't blame people for the way they have the wrong attitude towards people like me, a believer in Jesus, in Christ. Um, some people look at me like they don't even want me to breathe, or they'll be offended and report me and try and get me sectioned into mental hospital just for being friendly or for doing something that they don't like because they think that's not appropriate. But God needs people to buck them up, because when people don't have God, they need to be bucked up, because otherwise they become like this and they become judgmental, critical, fearful, afraid, suspicious, um, aggressive, and they think all those things that they're experiencing are coming from the other person. They think it's the other person that's got those conditions, but it's them. And that's because God needs to buck them up, because it says in Proverbs in the Bible, a child left to himself brings shame. And most people nowadays are left to themselves. They don't believe in God, they just believe in themselves. And God needs to buck people up. So I'm sure that when we have the resurrection and the final judgment, people will be mightily influenced by the presence of God, not just the fact that they suddenly discover there is a God, but when they come into contact with the presence of God will buck them up and will deal with a lot of these problems that they have of being critical and judgmental and laterally thinking and square minded about people and things, and their attitude towards people like me. Because God will not just buck people up by correcting them, He'll buck them up by His presence. Because most people don't believe in God and they don't know God's presence. But when you go into a cathedral like St. Giles in Edinburgh, the great cathedral of St. Giles, a church, and you hear the organ playing and look at the beautiful blue ceiling and carvings on the wall, you feel the presence of God and it bucks you up and it puts you in a holy frame of mind. But most people nowadays are not connected with God. They need God to buck them up.